man here. But I had the privilege of travelling up with Ockie. And Ockie is one of those tohunga. He's from Raukawa, te Pātatere o...
Raukawa, o te Pātatere. Raukawa te Kawa.
Kauroa o Pātatere.
Ai.
He rangatira I roto I ngā mahi pēnei me rere ata nei. He rangatira I roto I ngā mahi titiro I ngā whetū. He belongs to an organisation called SMART, Society Maori
Astronomy.
Of Maori Astronomy, Research and Traditions. And they were instrumental, these two people here, along with a few others. He'll talk about them in his presentation this morning, about the revival of the Maori maramataka. How we look at our whetū, how we look at navigation, how we look at the winds and how we look at weather, what are the signs. And he tino rangatira tēnei tangata, nā reira, please give us a big welcome to Ockie, Dr. Ockie Simmonds.
Tēnā tātou. Ko te tūtahi mea tuki rātou e ngaroati. Ko te heke nui, ko te arawatu ki a koe nui tonu. Ki rātou e ngaroatu e mihira wātu ki o koutou. Ki o koutou te hungora ki o reo hui mai tātou. Kauri au ki te reo Pākehā whakamara mai o koutou. Now, he just gave me a doctorate. I really appreciate that. Hey. So, tamahau, I just like to say, my thermometer has no degrees. Okay? So...
he did welcome his staff from the University of Auckland.
Yeah. But I just want to mention the speakers from yesterday. I'm privileged to be here. Absolutely privileged. And also, I think it was designed for me because I'm nearly at the end. And I would like to acknowledge those speakers from yesterday. I loved it. There were some of these tohunga from the universities. We as Māoris absolutely need you. Alex talked about ahuahu yesterday. And also Matt Preble talked about those ngangaras, the insects. We need that corridor to stitch with our stories. This morning we had Richard. Now, I'm so glad I'm here because he's going to endorse what I'm saying. Okay? Or I'm going to endorse what he's saying. But, so I thank those speakers from yesterday and this morning. I'm privileged to be here and hopefully I can give you some information. Now, Tamahui said I'm a rangatira, e hara tēnā. I'll tell you who's a rangatira. Okay, here we go. So this is giving a specific Gregorian date to the arrival of two waka. So first of all, you put acknowledgements at the end, kei te he tēnā. These people have been instrumental in my life. So when I grew up as a young what do you say? One of those nosy kids, okay? These people gave me stories. And I was one of those kids who used to hang around them. And this, I was going to say this in Māori to acknowledge where I come from. This beautiful woman here is my mother, ko Tukuau. She's from here at Mangamuka and Matauri Bay. And my father, who's that beautiful fellow there from Raukawa, he tried to sack me out of school at 15. And she said, no, just stay. You stay. So I stayed. But this man here is a tohunga. He's a tohunga whakapapa, piripi. He's a tuakana elder brother to my father. And he had heaps of manuscripts. He had 11 sons, 5 daughters. One of them, Matu, was Otto. When he died in 1977, all his manuscripts didn't go to his 11 sons, they were given to me. And I was a bit of a sneaky fella. I said I'll give it back to this wonderful woman here, Okero. I said to her, I'll give them back to you. Unfortunately, she died about 10 years later. I gave it back to this whānau and all his 11 sons in 2010. But I've extended their whakapapa for them. And this queer over here, these fellas here, are kanga mukapuna. That means they're grandchildren of her. But she's a auntie, I think, in Pākehā terms. Auntie, grandmother, I don't. Anyway, but I spent many years with her talking through the 80s and just before she died at age 96. So I don't have a degree, but it's a long story. But one of the key here, when I come to give a kōrero, I go and see my old people. Can I give this kōrero to Pākehā or to Chinese? I've given this research presented in China and Japan last year. And I go to my old people because that's the one who gives me credibility. Now, oops, sorry, I forgot. Now, Dr. Pauline Harris, she's a doctor of, she's New Zealand's first Maori astronomer, okay? And without her, I wouldn't be here. Sort of. Now, this is this fella. Now, you know he can't speak English. He told us the other day. Now, this guy is, and I can say this man's a tohunga. He has got absolute awesome knowledge. And when I met him 20 years ago, he said it was only 10 years ago, but he's forgotten. And he used to tell me things. And I've always taken a notebook and written them down because I can't remember. And then I'd argue with him because I'm Ngāpuhi just like him, see? We're cousins. So I can argue. And the beauty of this is that we give our, like you guys who spoke yesterday, you gave your kōrero with aroha, integrity, and kei roti te rangi Māori, in peace and love. And that's what we do. We share our stories with our Muslim brothers and sisters. We share all our kōrero with you Pākehā people because you have to help us all. So, that's a little speech I just did. But I acknowledge all these people, and I hope to acknowledge people through here, because this is not me talking. I'm talking, but I've been given knowledge, and I'm just giving it back. Okay. Now, part of this research, I've done it with this man here, Tanikawa. Kiyotaka Tanikawa. He's a doctor of astronomy in Japan. And also, I have to acknowledge his boss, Mitsuru Suma. And these guys have helped me date the arrival of Tūwaka. Now, so Tanikawa here gave a presentation in 2004 in China at a conference I was asked to go to by Dr. Pauline Harris. And at that conference, he specialised in dating historical astronomical events, astronomy. And he talked about a legend. And the legend, they dated as a solar eclipse in November 1173. And when I heard that story, it's similar to, it was identical to a legend we have called Hatupatu. And I said to him a bit later, I said, where is the cave in Japan? He goes, no, there's no cave. There's only a legend. I said, you come to New Zealand, we've got the same legend, pretty much. But we know where the cave is. And I said, also, Hatupatu is I'm a uri. He's an ancestor of mine. I know the genealogy to that man. He said, we'll help date it. So I come back to New Zealand, and we worked together for a couple of years. 2 years later, he sent me an email and says, well, where's all the research? You see? But it took me 5 years to put all this together. Anyway. So the historical context is this. Apparently, according to historians, we arrived here in 1350 AD. The historical date was proposed by, I think, Percy Smith 100 years or so ago. David Simmonds, who's not related to me, but he is by whakapapa anyway, but he won't know that. The date was merely an exercise in basic arithmetic. There was no supporting evidence, okay? So I hope to give some supporting evidence to a date I am proposing. Now, I have a Pākehā wife. We've been together 40 years. And she always says to me when I come to talk to Pākehā, Ockie, just, don't say things outrageous, okay? So, she says, they don't like some of the things you would say. You just, so if I say anything outrageous, Kate the Pai, my wife's got your back. So it's just part of this research I've gone through, and I hate to tell Hotu and them that we all drifted here. Polynesians reached New Zealand by an accident. A deliberate voyage was unlikely. A planned voyage was beyond the ability of Polynesians. We got that as a book in 1981. Where did Maori come from? And I'm glad I'm put here now. And this is in a book, I can't remember where it come from. And we come down through here. Well, this is wrong. Now, this is why I wanted Matt to be here. This is where all the animals came and the plants came. And not where we came. So, Te Rangi Hiro, and I've read lots of his books, not once, not twice, not 3 times, 10, 12 times. And all your research, especially the one this morning by Richard, endorses what this fellow says. And he wrote it way back in, many years ago. So we come this way. Now, I know we come out of here because I was there in 2014. That's where our people come from. In the middle of there, Hefei. Polynesians galore there. I said to one Chinese fella, I said, how come you don't look like the other Chinese people? He says, different tribe. We come out through here, down through here, out that way. Now, this is the way where the Rangi Hiro said. This is the way we came. Whai and Yap are in the Marshall Islands. Maui Tiki fished up those islands. Come down through here. I'm lucky enough to have gone up to these islands. I was a technician engineer during the 70s and 80s, and I used to go up here and install tracking radars and radar systems. We come down through Tonga and that got here. We did not come through Papua. If we did, our mitochondrial DNA would have been drenched in there with Malaysian and Papuan DNA. And then we went up here. Rakahanga ne Manahi, which was, Ross talked about islands at Rakahanga there. It was fished up Maui Tiki. So our traditions come through this way. Don't come through Papua. Down through Rarotonga, Te Aotearoa. You've seen all that pictures. Now I just want to say this is where waka came through. Okay, and they landed around here. And I've just put these names up here, but I'm focusing on these 2 waka, Tainui and Te Aroa. I whakapapa off, this is my main waka. Raukawa comes off Tainui, but they intermarried, so we go to both places. Oops. As kids, this is 1960. Will sing to us, Waiata Tawhito, and so we got a lot of kōrero from these old people, like this. And that's what it looks like. It's all painted nice now, like that now. So I'm going to talk about Te Aroa, and I'm going to talk about these people on it. The captain was Tamata Kapua. He had a brother, Tia. He had another brother, Hatupatu. And this was the navigator, Ngai Te Roirangi. He's a first kanda. He was the tuakana. He's the eldest. Now, Tainui, I'm just going to mention one of them is Hochiroa, the captain of the 2 waka that came out. So when they left there, they left there at Tahiti, Rangiatia, Hawaii, and I'm so glad Richard mentioned that this is all Hawaii, because that endorses what our old people have been saying, that Hawaii is not a place, it's sort of more like a country of islands. we came down through this way, and you already know it's about 3,000 miles. That's about 1,000 kilometres from Tahiti to Rarotonga. But they actually come through Rangitahua, which is Raoul Island, and I'll talk about it. And then we come down through, the bulk came down to the east coast, okay? But we'll get a bit to that later on. And I've talked to this about how they came with Hotiroa. He's got to be here a bit later. I'm glad he's not here because he'd probably disagree. Now this one here, I just want to say, Tainui and Te Arawa arrived here at Whangaparaoa on the east coast. Now many people say it's over there, just above Auckland City. Okay? Now, if you look at Te Arawa settled at this place here called Makatu. Tainui settled at this place called Makatu. Okay? If you draw a line through here, it goes through there. So they didn't have Google in their day, but they certainly had it in their brains. They knew exactly where each other was, because Ngai Te Roirangi went from there, down here, over to there. So how did he know they were there? Anyway, we have a kōrero back home, a story which we grew up as kids, and there's a group of marae here built post-European, okay, about 1880s here. I come from a marae there, a very humble place, quite secretive. And these marae here, that's the doorway to us. It's called Te Whariwairu o Raukawa, the spiritual house of Raukawa. That's the front door. That's the Pautoko Manawa, which is central. This is the back door. Okay? Goes through there. So Tainui says that's Whangaparaoa. I mean, I could tell you more about this kōrero here, but you need another session. Okay. So, they also used navigational aids, okay, and maritime and geographical information, which they clearly knew. Now this island here, now this rangatira, Rereata, has never been there. But from his old kōrero that he got passed down to him, he described, I've been there. I spent about 8 days on that island. I dropped off there in 1982 by the Navy to do fix up some radio gear. But that is a volcano. So Rangitahua is fire in the sky. So when they came, they either got there and lit a fire, but I suspect it was actually active. But that's just me talking. So they left, came out here to Rangitahua, they come down here. Now I'm talking about Tainui and Te Arawa and several other waka that we'll discuss a bit later. So here you have large swells used to sweep up from the Southern Ocean, like that. And then in here, this shaded area, the swells are very low, 0 to 1/2 metre high. So they would follow these here. But generally, the later arrivals came down here. And there's an example of the Met Services website. Can you see that shadow? That goes right up there about 1,000 K. Okay, now when Te Arawa arrived, they went over and settled at Makatu. Now yesterday, Ross and the team talked about an island called Mehetia. The other name to Mehetia is Meketu. Now Meketu, and I got this information from a beautiful academic in Tahiti, and which Rereata and I met in 2015 in Hawaii, and her name is Hina no Drollett. I asked her, what does Makatu mean? She didn't know. She went to Tuamotu, a colleague in Tuamotu, and the name of Makatu was originally Mehetia or Meketu, okay? There's two meanings for it. One, if you looked at the island yesterday that Ross had put up, it looks like an ure, a penis, okay? That's one meaning, hiure. The other meaning is dispersed in the wind. I like the dispersed in the wind. So they settled in Makatu. Within 6 months, Te Arawa was burnt. So if you know that kōrero. So anyway, sorry. So Tia, after a while, like typical family, Maori family anyway, I don't know about Pākehā family, they had a bit of a fight, a few fights, and groups set off. Okay, Tia and his younger brother, Hatupatu, set off and they came down here, down to Iti Rotorua. They went that way. Now they couldn't go the other way because of, if you know that, there's a channel there called Oho. They went around this way and they discovered things like Te Awaho, all those rangi wewehi people think that's where they live. Right? And they came down through this way, they came down to Ātia Muri. Tia who comes from behind. So when Tia got there, he realised there was somebody ahead of him. And then they came and they followed the river up here to Ātia Muri, steps of Tia, down through to Lake Taupo. Anyway, and they started discovering this side of the lake. And then Ngai Te Rorangi, the navigator, set off, and he came this way. Kaingaro had a long meal there. He probably had, not a good kai either. So, and then he climbed up Mount Tauhara, which is at the back of the township of Taupo. There's Tauhara. And so Ngai Te Rorangi climbed up there, and he saw down here Tongariro. He saw that. And he said, I'm going there. So then he set off down here, down from Tauhara, and this is the traditional narrative, by the way. And they met. Tia and Hatupatu, Tia and Ngai Te Rorangi met along here somewhere. Oh, and at there, Tia said, Ngai Te Rorangi told Tia, koe whai ki au, don't follow me, okay? I'll put a mātuku on you, a curse on you, okay? And then they came along here. Tia went this way. Now we know he went this way because he went over here to Pirongia forest. And then Ngai Te Rorangi come down and ended up Rangipo. And at Rangipo, that happened, a solar eclipse. Okay? So we'll go and discuss a solar eclipse a bit. So a solar eclipse is either total, annular, or very deep. An important historical occasion to memorise it is a co-occurring event takes place. A record of the event is retained in writing. Maori did not have writing. An eclipse record is retained by traditional legends, geographical names, stories, songs, waiata karakia. And this came from research done by Tanikawa and Sumasan in their years of research. So the solar eclipse. So Tanikawa provided between 1350 and 1450, he provided these eclipse events. He actually gave more, but I focused on this area because of whakapapa. Okay? And when you look at these events, they're like this. So the June 1381, the eclipse went north, probably over here, over Waitangi. So, and also 1368 is outside the whakapapa, the genealogy cohort. Okay, the 1433 event here actually goes across the South Island and the north. It straddles the both islands. So this one discounts it when we looked closer at the whakapapa. This one here, 1424, way down south. These ones discount themselves because it's in the middle of December and January, and at the time, it's unlikely you would have had a very cold, snowy conditions at that time, because when they went there, it was cold and bleak. They wouldn't have seen the eclipses. Okay, and this one here goes right across the central plateau, the 1409 eclipse. Okay, and this is what Tanikawa and them sent back to me. They plotted it across there, and it's really technical, believe me. They explained it to me. I had big arguments because my mathematics wasn't too hot. Anyway, so the eclipse was October 1409, and it was Mutu Whenua. It was a new moon. So from this new moon, we can extrapolate back and guess, predict when Tainui and Charua may have arrived. Okay, so how do we know it was an eclipse? Naming of Lake Taupo. So Tia was at Lake Taupo. We don't know exactly where he was. So the eclipse happened. The full name of Taupo is Taupo Nui a Tia. The meaning is the great darkness settled over Tia. So, Ngāi Te Roirangi was at Rangipo. Rangipo is about in the south of the lake. So this area, State Highway 1 goes right through there. Rangipo. Satellite eclipse arrives. Sky, rangi, sky, poor, dark sky. They wouldn't have seen the eclipse because from the traditional narrative, it was cold, dark, sleety. Okay. Now this here was this is Tanikawa, that's not Hatupatu. Okay? But this rock is Hatupatu. He was here at the eclipse event. He had returned from Taupo going back to Makatu. Now we know that because he was going to look for the joker who burnt their boat, Te Arawa. Hatupatu was here. Now it was quite possible when he saw part of the eclipse because in the legend, Ngāi Te Roirangi had flames coming out of her fingers, a coronal effect. So he may have glimpsed the aurora, the solar eclipse. Okay, this is the whakapapa. Now, I have hundreds of Tainui and Charua whakapapa, but I took this one straight out of here, out of a publication by Guardian. And the reason I took this one, because it also had my tupuna in it, a tupuna of my grandfather's grandfather, and it went back to these. So on the boat, on Charua, are all these people. Ngāi Te Roirangi, Tamata Kapua, Tia, Hatupatu. And that's the others on there. That one there was born on the waka, on the way here, Unuku, and Moatai was also born on the Tainui waka. Okay, this is my whakapapa from my father, Kraua, Chaki. And I just want to show, if you go right back here, this is the shortest whakapapa I can find for my grandfather. And so 1350 is up there. He can't have left because there was 4 generations on board. This one here, 4 generations on board. There's a disparity here, okay? Almost 4. But they left on the same day and they arrived here close in the same time. So I think we can discard the disparity in the generations. Okay, so let's go back here. So when they left, this has got the eclipse events here. So when they left, here there were 5 generations alive at the time. These 2 here, their grandfather was alive. I'm not too sure about Ngāi Te Roirangi's father, but he was alive. Homai Tawhiti was alive. This Kraua was alive. Their Kraua was alive. Grandfather for these people, okay? So when they left, he was born in Rarotonga. So they left Rangiatia, or Rangiatia, we believe, and they left here because his full name is Unuku mai Rarotonga, Unuku from Rarotonga. And so there's 5 generations alive. So that makes it a very short time frame that this could have happened. It certainly can't happen there, and it certainly can't happen here. Because if you drop that down these few years, these old guys would be dead. Okay? So they arrived here. They left when there were 5 generations, and they arrived, there was a 6th generation alive. Because it took 30 days to get here from Rangiatia. So the arrival date was here. Oh, sorry, the eclipse date was here. Tainui and Charua arrived the summer of 1408. Now how? We don't know the date. Okay. So some supporting evidence, when they arrived, it was summer. The pūtakawa was blooming. December 1408. In Tahiti, in mid-November, evening rising of Matali'i. And when that rises, inanga come. And then when inanga come, they're swiftly followed by boniti. By the way, all this information comes from Hina no Drolit, from Tahiti. And then also, the breadfruit can be harvested. So I haven't talked much about the maramataka, and I won't, but every day is on a lunar month is named. And as a kid, I grew up under this, not knowing that we grew up under the maramataka. So let's just go back here. So traditional departure dates is this date here. Orongo nui o te tau ururua. Now, if you read any of the publications by Peter Hurinui Jones and stuff, they've got this date wrong. They spelt it wrong. Okay? And I couldn't find what this meant. And I thought I'd be clever and call it a shark, ururua. But it's the dialectual form of breadfruit. The long breadfruit season. So they left in mid-November. So o rungonui o te tau ururua, the 27th day of that month. Okay, that's when they left. I can't read it. So they left Hawaii or Tahiti that date. And then they went to Rarotonga. And we know, if you read the corridor, they departed that date and they departed that date, and it took me ages to figure out what they were doing. They left Hawaii that date, they went to Rarotonga, a couple of days, that's 7 days apart, by the way. So they probably took 3 days to get there, 3-4 days, had a cup of tea, a mimi at Rarotonga, and then they left on this date, Uanuku. Okay, the 4th lunar day of the next lunar month. They departed Rarotonga. Right. So they arrive in summer 1408. They leave Tahiti on Orongonui. That date's 15th November 1408. They arrive at Rarotonga, they leave there, they leave 22nd November 1408. They go through Rangitahua. We don't know the day they arrived or the day they left. Before they got to Rangitahua, they went through a storm, te waho parata, possibly a cyclone. Some of the literature says it's a whirlpool. I'm saying it's a cyclone. They arrive here at Whangaparaoa. Tainui did. Okay? Day they arrived, Tainui, new moon, mutu whenua, 18 November 1408. Charoa, they went this way. I'm saying that because they took a lot longer, a little bit longer. So I'm calling these fellas here the first tourists to Aotearoa. I can say that because I've got whakapapa to these fellas. And they arrived here, Tamatia Aio, first quarter. The date, 26th December. And if you go and look at the traditional narrative, this is what happened. Even though Charoa thinks they come first, they did a whole lot of tricky things to prove that they come first before Tainui. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about some astronomical navigation, and this to me cements the date. You see, I've added my wife bit there. You see, Ockie, don't be whakahihi and say this is the date. So there's a couple of things. When our people come, they knew the astronomical alignments. I'm saying that. Okay, so there was Venus was in conjunction. Okay, in December, conjunction means there was an eclipse. Superior conjunction, okay? So Venus was between the Earth and the Sun. And if you've ever seen that, it's an awesome sight. Now, when I've tweaked to this, because if you read the traditional kōrero, they say, go to Aotearoa a little left or right of the Sun, the Moon, and Venus. And I'm thinking, what the hell? if you look at our horizon, you know, the sun sets down, you know, further south, then you've got the moon, and then you've got Venus, and it's sort of, it's never together. However, on 1408, there's a conjunction. And this is what happens. So this is where the sun rises, okay? Sun rises there, and that's really far south in summer. Okay, that's where the sun was in a superior conjunction. So you've got the sun rising there. And then you've got Venus setting there in the evening, but it's actually rising. And then December 18, Motu Whenua. Motu Whenua, okay? Then the day after that is Whiro. Day after that is Tiria. Then you've got the Te Arawa Waka coming in late on this date. So Te Arawa, Tainui arrives there, Te Arawa arrives there. And our people come here, come on this date. And this is some of the astronomical alignments. Okay, so I'm getting to the end. So, was there a great fleet? This idea has been poo-pooed by a lot of writers, but these were all the waka that came through Rangiatia at the same time, in the same summer months. Okay? All these ones. Now, there are actually others, but I just haven't done enough research on that. Okay, so why did they leave? You get a lot of kōrero saying food shortages, population pressure, religious persecution, wars and defeat. There's actually climate change. Okay? But that's some other research I'm actually doing now. Okay. So there was a dry zone at that time. There was food shortages in the Pacific. Okay, conclusions. Tainui and Te Arawa departed November 1408. Te Arawa witnessed a solar eclipse, October 1409. Arrived in New Zealand, December 1408. Last mass migration on Earth to settle the last landmass in New Zealand, in Aotearoa. So I just want to show this as Hatupatu, and we grew up as kids and we had to stop here all the time and mihi to this kohatu. And my father used to talk about this in the 1950s, that Pākehā government's going to knock it down and make the highway, state highway ones just beside that. But then in 2017 they spent thousands of dollars to renovate this area, and it's a wāhi tapu now. So the Japanese scientists come out, and I showed them all around Makatu and all that, and he come to Hatupatu. And that's my grandmother, and taking one of my young nephews and her taina, my tuakana, my matua keke there. So my grandmother would make my father do that, and he listened. Nō reira, kia ora tātou, kumutu. Tā haere mai kia ranga, to come to rangi tahua.
So like that picture of the maunga now with the ahi, would that have been there back in the day, or would that be in connection?
Well, unless, like Rereate said, that they may have got there and lit the ahi, you see, as a marker. But I've been to that island, and it's a volcano.
Yes.
Aye, and it may have been smoking, you know.
Do you think it's along the line with Biwa and Haungaroa bringing Te Hoata food from Hele, of Hawaii, to save Ngā Toroirangi? Is that in connection with the alignment?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, eh? But yeah, I'm myself. I think Ngāi Toroirangi sisters were with him personally.
No, they weren't. No, they weren't. They were back in the island.
Yes.
And when Ngātoro went to the top to look out over at Tongariro, and just remember that Tongariro, actually that particular name, when he called to his sisters, he called to tell them, "Puriru iau i te tonga, and I'm seized by the cold and the wind in the south. Can you send that to me?" So his sisters sent that underground and came, and you may very well be right that it came to those places. Sent 3 baskets that actually came finally got to him, to Ngā Toroirangi. Ngā Toroirangi only got one. One was stopped off at White Island. One was taken by our relations in Rotorua. And only one turned up. And how do I know that? Because when he was quite angry actually when he got it, but he warned himself, got better, and he threw it, that kete, which is to a little spring on the side of Tongariro called Kete Tahi. So, yeah,
Oh, yeah, cool.
Weta hina kore o māku nei. I mean, hey, ko Tongariro tēnei.
Hey, look, can I just say one thing? And I just want to mention to the kōrero this morning about when the East Polynesian culture changed in the late 1400s. Okay. Now, one of the issues, and I was going to say this, my wife said, don't say that. Anyway, I will. Is that when they came, Tainui and Charawa and all those waka, they actually brought all their mātauranga. And I'm saying they brought their Alexandria Library of Knowledge. Because they got here and they set up and they suppressed everybody else. The early arrivals were the flotsam and jetsam of the Pacific, okay? They got kicked out, so to speak, okay? And they didn't have the kōrero, eh? So anyway, that's another thought. My wife expected this reaction.
Where's your wife?
Oh, they certainly got it. One more part-day before we go to lunch. Stay away. Where's your wife was the part-day, so we'll leave it at that one. Right. I've got a notice here, I've got a part-day, and this is not relating to that, but from the ladies in front have asked if we can make an announcement, please, asking if we have in the room the owner of a car, Rego ENS56, a Honda Civic, and BSY 368, a Ford Courier. If we can ask that if they can repark their vehicles, please, as they are double parking, and if need be, the parking up the top is available for access if we require that. The treaty grounds are experiencing a lack of parking space for their general manahiri arriving. So if you own those vehicles, can you please move them? We have one of these announcements at every function I've been to. In Auckland, we normally employ the tow truck, but kia horo kata.
Kia ora.
And, you know, not just that, I know we're going to go to lunch now, and maybe there'll be, I know there's heaps of part-day coming up to ask for hockey. And again, I want to reiterate that coming up with this man and let out in the car, I feel as though, like, you know, back at primary school listening to the conversation between these two tohunga.